Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, getting into the chat, letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. Bex, Bex, where are you? Bex, Bex, come here. This dog is driving me insane. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes. And not being like Bex right now. On today's show, we're going to be talking about Cesco. He is signing a new deal with RB Leipzig. And so the panic has fully ensued on the timeline. He was said to be a target on Arsenal's list of like striker targets, and he is re-signing with RB Leipzig, which will rule out a move for him this summer. And so it feels like back to the drawing board, or looking at different targets or whatever. I do feel like there is a tendency for this fan base to not ever want to accept that we've been rejected by a player. Many people, like including Ornstein, said that he was a top target for us. So let's not sit here and pretend like he was never a target. We never really wanted him. If we would have wanted him, then we would have gotten him. His agent, I think, used our interest to get RB Leipzig to give him a good deal. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay to accept that we've been rejected. Like, it's not just us. Man United were interested in him. Chelsea were very interested in him. In fact, in the last couple of days, a lot of the Chelsea, aggregators and in the knows were saying that Sesko was going to them. So it's not that big of a deal. Let's not pretend that every player that we don't get, we never really were interested in. I remember when we didn't get Kudus last summer, the narrative that everybody was going with is that we were never in for him, only for it to be revealed that we were very interested in him. We just couldn't get the deal done. So let's just get that out of the way. Like, before we get started, let's get that out of the way. Let's not be babies. He didn't come, like, because he didn't want to, not because we weren't interested, right? So it's not that deep, right? It's not that deep. Like, you don't always get who you want. I just think that Cesco would have been a good signing for us because he's a younger striker that could be, like, brought up, or can be whatever it's called, developed, while Havertz is the starter. But I still feel like it's unlikely that Arsenal will prioritize striker just because of Havertz and how well Havertz has been playing. If they don't move Jesus on, it's going to be even more difficult, So losing out on Cesco may mean that Arsenal will turn their attentions to a different position, or, just push striker to the next summer. We can talk about what that looks like. But ultimately, Cesco is not coming. So it's leaving people with, I think, a little bit of anxiety, because it's like, we don't know any of our targets. In the last 2 summers, we've known at least one of our targets, right? So we're going into the unknown. There's also some need to sell to buy conversations out there as well, which I personally do not love. So yeah, we'll get into it, but let's go ahead and get into your headlines before we get into the mess. It is understood that there is strong interest for Thomas Partey from Saudi Arabia. Thiago Mata has made a specific request for the club to sign Jakub Kivior. Arsenal want at least 20 million euros to sanction the sale. And of course, like Juventus they're broke boys, and they do not want to pay that much for anybody, so that's never going to happen. Like, unless we loan him, which would be incredibly stupid. I don't see that happening. What are you doing over there? Bex, what are you doing over there? Arsenal retained an interest in Bilbao's Nico Williams. The club may sign a winger rather than an out-and-out striker. That's coming from Simon Collins. Arsenal have held initial talks with Yusuf Fofana. It hasn't gone any further than that. Cheeto Obi Martin did address the rumors about him leaving the club, saying that he would like to stay at Arsenal for a long time. Arsenal is a good club. He's getting better in training. There's a lot of good people, good coaches. So I'm really happy to be here. So that's kind of just like the little headlines. I also had something about Douglas Luiz in here. I don't know where it went, but it looks like he is going to go to Juventus, which is just another player off of the list, you know, in terms of midfield targets. Stop that. In terms, he's obsessed with this room. Bex is he's obsessed with this room because there's all these chords and things for him to get into. And so he's like having the time of his life while I'm having like a literal anxiety attack because I'm like, what are you about to do? Like, are you about to bite this cord? Like, what are you up to? Um, but yeah, Douglas Luiz looks like he might be going to Juventus in some weird swap with Weston McKennie. That is a strange, strange deal that they're doing. But listen, not my club, not my problem. But yeah, let's see who's all in here and see what you guys are just kind of saying from the beginning. The 8 says, here we go. You know, Jess is going to freak out as usual. This is going to be another Arsenal going to hell in a basket kind of projection episode. Did I say it's hell in a basket? Like, just be like, here's the thing. It's like anytime that you say anything remotely not like positive about the club or whatever, you're freaking out, you're projecting, you're freaking out, you're doing this. I literally said at the top of the episode that it's really not that deep, you know, but I just think we should be honest about like sometimes we get rejected. It's not that deep, but you know, nobody is freaking out. You're projecting onto my stream that I'm going to do something that I'm not even doing. So, but at the same time, yeah, if we miss out on key targets that we've been looking at for a long period of time, like Mudryk, the amount of Arsenal fans that deluded themselves into thinking that Arteta never really wanted Mudryk are, quite frankly, just stupid. Like we did want Mudryk, we got beat out for Mudryk. And so in hindsight, everybody can say that it was the right thing to do not to get him. And Trossard has been great. I love Trossard. You guys know I love him. But yeah, when you're chasing somebody for the whole January window, you went for Caicedo and Mudryk and end up with Trossard and Jorginho. It is kind of like, well, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah, but literally nobody freaked out, but you projected, not me. But anyways, Jordan Davis says Sesko ain't God. Far from the best striker anyway. We just move on and get someone else, go after Gyökeres. I don't think we're going to go after any striker that's not a young striker that can be developed. Beckham, get out. Come here. Come here. It's almost like you want to give me a heart attack. I get that, like, people didn't even want Cesco, so they're like, well, that means we're going to go for Osimhen or Gyökeres. No, we're not. No, we're not. Arsenal are not going to go for a ready-made striker. Like Havertz is going to stop that from happening, and that's why we've had this conversation many, many times that Havertz is not going to the bench. So whatever striker we're going to get has to be okay with sitting on the bench behind Havertz. Like there's just no way, because either we get Gyökeres and Havertz goes back to midfield, or we get a younger striker and Havertz starts at number 9. Like there's just no way that they're going to stick him on the bench, not with the wages that was spent and the fee. So I think Gyökeres and Osimhen are off the table, not only because of the way that the squad has been built with bringing in a player on those types of wages, playing number 9, whatever, but also the amount that it would cost for us to get them. And to be honest, with everything that's coming out right now, it doesn't look like Arsenal want to spend a lot. It feels like it's giving selling summer window, like we need to sell a bunch of players in order to be able to bring some in. We're not looking to spend big. We're looking to get like young players. So the idea of Gyökeres and Osimhen don't feel realistic, but we will see. Let's see. Burmy says back to the drawing board. Caesar says no need for a backup right wing. Arteta said it before. We need to have a few backups, lots of profile and people that cover more than one position. Tommy covers 4, Timber covers 3, Jesus 3, Trossard 3, money on left wing, center mid, left back in 10. I kind of hear that, but like there's a difference between people that can play across all those positions and actually do it well. I do think we give a lot of like, oh, they're so versatile to so many players, but then when we see them play there, it's like, oh, are they actually good there? Um, I would like for us to get a marquee signing in one position, and if it's not going to be midfield, which it should be, then it needs to be a top class winger. Like we need to push the envelope. Like just bringing in backup players is not going to be enough. I don't think for us to really push for like in multiple competitions next season. But that's just me. So Tex says, was he even a target? I don't believe anything until the shirt is lifted and the contract is signed, but I ain't got to worry about content. It's not really about me trying to create content. It's what's out there. Like personally, I feel like there's just always this like push every summer that whenever we don't get a target to pretend like we were never interested in them and that content creators are just making up things to make sure that we can continue. Like I literally woke up this morning and all in my inbox, that's all I saw was people sending me, not just from like just in the nose, but like actual credible like journalists that Cesco decided to stay at RB Leipzig and he is a major target of Arsenal. So nobody's making up, nobody's trying to just pretend make content. And it's weird because it's like if you only really pay attention to things when the player is signed, then why are you tuning into transfer news content? Like we're not making things up, guys. Like yeah, it's just like the weirdest thing. Every time, every summer, it's content creators are making things up. Like, no, we're not. I literally can show you, like, if we're making it up, then the journalists are making it up. David Ornstein's making it up. Fabrizio Romano making it up. Everybody's making it up. Like, what are you guys saying? Kafunto says we have to get a striker or we're gonna be caught short. If we don't learn the lessons this window, what are we really trying to do? Unknown Kai says, agreed, Havertz developing as a striker kills the need for buying a striker this summer. A wide player is more likely. The need is at left back and midfield. I really think we need to get a midfielder. Like, I cannot see a summer without a midfielder, like a marquee midfield signing. I just feel like, but it's like what's coming out it feels like Arsenal are kind of okay with what we have, like their starting 11 they're okay with. I actually think we need upgrades in the starting 11. That's how I feel. I feel that left back, left midfield, and maybe even left wing. We need some reinforcement, some big personalities, some real like heavy hitters, like kind of like the right hand side. We have Saka and Odegaard on the right, kind of need the same on the left, and it's not really giving that. But it kind of feels like they're okay with what they have, and if they can fill in positions, they will. If they don't see the players, then they won't. I do feel like we'll be kind of making a mistake if we don't actually like push. Like, let's push just a little thing. Nico says, Jess, the funny thing is people weren't saying all this when we were in for Sesko. We would just do it every single time. Like we got rejected. Like he wanted to stay. Like, who cares? Like it's not that deep. Like we could just say it. Like, um, and like attacking the content creators because they're putting the news out there. That's actually just been like, we're just relaying the news and talking about it. Just feels very like, be mad at the club for not getting the player. Don't be mad at us. Like, it's just strange. Bendover says, we need specialists now. Troy says, Arsenal need to get Fofana and Bakayoko, and we can use Saka and Jesus as strikers with Havertz. Shio says, we need backups for Saka and '08. We're lucky not to have any injuries to them. But that's just the problem. Like, I think that's just the problem is that people like we need those, but we also still feel like as much as we need those, we still need to figure out the starting 11 on the left-hand side. Like that's to me like we're not going to be able to do it all because we never bought like a Xhaka replacement. We've doing the merry-go-round at left back. We still have to figure those out. And then also people are talking about backups for Odegaard and Saka, and it's like we just already know Arsenal are not going to get all that done. They'll prioritize the backup goalkeeper and the defender. Everything going forward I feel like is going to be left by the wayside a little bit, or like a little bit of like it's not going to be as prioritized. Arsenal are very like this transfer group, like Edu, Arteta, whoever's working with them, seem very apprehensive about going big up front. It's like everything that they want to do is like we're going to go big and defender, like defensive center mid defenders, but like when when we start going a little bit further forward, it's like they're almost afraid to pull the trigger. And I just don't feel like we have the space to do that. I feel like we really need to like push the envelope, a big forward signing, big midfield signing, just get it done. Like I don't really get it, but I understand the backup talks, but like we haven't even completed the 11. It's not done. Like our starting 11 is not, it's good, but it's not good enough, I guess. Like that's just how I feel about it. Shamaria says, comma, Jess, we don't see much transfer activity until July. We address the midfield and attack, in my opinion. Again, I'm not really panicking. I'm like just saying that like I don't get a good feeling about the window overall. Like, and I've said that like maybe a couple of days ago where I was like, there's no it doesn't give big window. Like I think our big window was last summer and we'll do like more of like a filler window this time around, and I don't think that that's what we need, but I don't expect us to get anything done now before the Euros, but again, like, I don't know why people are telling me to calm down, like, I'm not really saying anything. Johnny D says, "I don't get this left back shit. We need 2 midfielders and 2 wingers, or at least 3 of them done. Haverson, Jesus up top is not bad." I mean, we're not gonna get 2 midfielders, and we're not gonna get 2 wingers either, like, there's just yeah, like we're not gonna get that. Like if we got one attacker and one midfielder, I'd be surprised. Um, but the left back, we definitely need to get that sorted. Like I don't see a world where a left back is not a priority. Like you can't just play Timber on the left. Like it never made sense. I don't know who deluded themselves into thinking that Timber was coming in to be a left back. He just happened to play there. Like he just happened to play there because Zinchenko wasn't fit. Zinchenko doesn't really work. Kivior is okay. Tommy's always injured. You need a left back. Like going into next season with what we have is setting yourself up for the inevitable when both Zinchenko and Tomiyasu are not fit. You have Kivior. Kivior has some real like ups and downs, you know? Some real up and down. So that's just me, but I feel like it makes sense for Arsenal to prioritize left back, like get like a true left back, like a specialist in that position and just move it on. Like just move on from the merry-go-round back there. Cause like I don't think any of them really feel like 100% like they should be the left back. Like, you know how everybody's like very confident in Ben White. We don't have that same confidence on the left. I feel like we need it, you know? Um, but yeah, just to let you guys know, there's 330 of you guys in here, which is great. And Beckham's finally asleep, so like I'm happy. Now I can like move on with my life because you're like really about to give me a heart attack. Just to make sure that you guys like just to remind you guys, I had said that I was gonna make the schedule for watch-alongs this summer, and I did go ahead and get that done. So this is the summer watch-along schedule with a combination of Copa America and the Euros, mostly Euros. And so we're going to start off tomorrow with Brazil or the U.S. men's national team versus Brazil. It's like a pre-Copa America game. It's going to be late for the people in the UK, but if you just happen to be up, we would love to have you over on TIFO. We're just going to probably sit around and watch the US get absolutely ripped to shreds by Brazil. But yeah, the game starts at 4 p.m. PST, which is midnight UK time, but we'll start about 15 minutes earlier than that, so about 11:45. And then here are the rest of the games that we'll be watching. Like I said, a combination of Euros plus Copa America games. So, and I tried to pick out a lot of games that I felt like the Arsenal players are going to play in. So you have the England games, you have Netherlands and France. Not really Arsenal players in that one, except for Saliba, but that should be a good game. Most of the Germany games, because we know Kai will be most likely starting. I grabbed Ukraine and Belgium because of Trossard and Zinchenko. And then like Brazil and Colombia and US men's national team and Uruguay are just going to be good games, you know? So if you want to join, please buy it. Like, I would love to have you like on TIFO watching the games. So the link to the actual just She Knows Arsenal page on TIFO, which is where all of the watch alongs will be, is linked it's linked in the description, and it's also pinned to the chat. And I can just like show you guys what it looked like again. So like when you guys go over there, you're not like, what the fuck is this? But this is what the page looks like. So when you're on the page, you'll see She Knows Arsenal, which is my page, and then you'll see the upcoming watch along. So we already have the U.S. men's national team versus Brazil, which is tomorrow, and then on the 14th, Germany versus Scotland. And then we have like past ones that if you guys weren't there, you missed. But yeah, this is where everything will be. And it's just alpha.jointifo.com/She Knows Arsenal. So just wanted to remind you guys because I'd said I was going to do it and I did it. And if you guys want me to send you the schedule, I can send it to you. You guys just DM me or email me and I'll send it out to you. And I'll also post it on social so you can just save it onto your phone. So yeah, tons of watch alongs to come. Blah blah blah. Okay, Roger said, are these times in Pacific? These are in Pacific time. So, like anything that's at 12 p.m. is 8 p.m. UK, which is a lot of them. 9 a.m., so a lot of these are PST my time. You just have to like convert them. So yeah. Let's see. C. Wilder says, remember Timber started all of his reserve comeback games at left back. No, he didn't. Against Everton, he played on the right. And when his first ever game for Arsenal was on the right, against Man United. So the left back thing only really came like a little bit later on. And Arteta already mostly said that anyway, like that, he can play there, but we'll have other options. And Ornstein also confirmed that, like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't Ornstein or maybe it was somebody else, but that Arteta is not happy about the options that he has, and Timber filled in there, but he'll mostly play on the right. So I know like it would feel better if he just played on the left, because then we wouldn't like, you'd get what you want. You want Ben White and Timber, but genuinely like Timber's going to play on the right too. So we need a left back. AMD says, I doubt he will ever give us a full season. It would be amazing to see Jesus at top for a whole season, at top form for a full season. Yeah, I don't think he'll ever give us that. And I don't really want to wait on it, if I'm honest. So it's an interesting one with Jesus, because I know some people have like still have hope for him to like have this amazing season for us. But I wouldn't hold my breath, just because he's injury prone, and he looks like he's lost a little bit of his burst. And that's like one of his best qualities, is being able to like make those quick movements. If he can't make it, he's a lot less effective. So yeah. Akin says, I feel like I'm the only Arsenal fan in the world that feels like striker is not a priority as a starting wing and a midfielder in this current market. Kai might be the best option we've got. And when you look at the striker options out there on the market, when Cesco is off of it, like you basically have Osimhen and Gyökeres. And I don't really feel like either one of those feel like the 100% right option. Like, and Arsenal are not going to go for any player that they're not 100% sure on. And I think they've already made it pretty clear that they're not 100% sure on Gyökeres or Osimhen. Or they would have been bigger targets, and Sesko would not have. So I just don't see them going for those players. I think Gyökeres is too old, and it's too he's not too old in my mind. Like 26 is not old, but for Arsenal, like they're not going to buy anybody that's over the age of like 22, 23. And he's like an unknown kind of quantity. He went from the championship over to Portugal. It's not really the Arsenal thing to do. They want to get somebody that's prem proven, or a young player that can be molded. They're not going to go for an older guy that's not prem proven. And then you have Osimhen, who I think the injuries and the price tag alone, and the fact that he probably won't be desperate to come to Arsenal. Like, I think Arsenal also want a player that's like desperate to come to the club. And like, I would imagine speaking to Osimhen is kind of like, well, we want to see who's going to give us the most money. I don't anticipate him being desperate to be a part of this project. So like that in itself will make Arsenal just be like, it's okay, we don't need a striker because we have Havertz. So yeah, I can see us not getting a striker, and I won't be devastated by it. I just feel like then there needs to be a big signing somewhere else. I just don't think going through a whole like this summer without bringing in a marquee signing is giving we want to win things. Like I'm it's weird because I mean, if we had won the league, I think I'd feel differently about what we need. Like it'd be like, oh, okay, like we won the league, so maybe we don't need as much, but it just still feels like we're missing some stuff. And like I remember David Ornstein was saying that in the athletic article that the club, the decision makers felt like when we were playing in the Champions League that we didn't have that X factor. And I'm like, well, if you guys feel that way, then can you go get it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, go get it. Like, it's not like that hard. Like, just like, is it hard to like go out there and buy a player that has X factor? Like, go find somebody that has a little bit of special sparkle dust. Like, but they want always like the perfect signing. So it's tough. Art says, I think Rafael Leao should be our main target. We've like never been linked to him, like not even once. Victor says Dovbik from Girona would be great in my opinion. La Liga top scorer. Seems like he's going to Atleti though. Yeah, he's gone. Keenan says most of us would prefer to see, Timber start ahead of Kiwi or Zinni or Tommy. Just shows you how badly we need to move them on and get an elite left back. And I kind of agree with this. It's people want to shoehorn Timber onto the left because they don't like the options that we have, but they don't want to just go ahead and buy a left back. Like if you want to put Timber, a right-footed, right-sided center back, right back on the left because you don't like the other options that we have, then you're basically saying we need a left back. Like, I agree with that. Like, literally, just get one. And all of our having Ben White, a really top left back in Timber, is so much better than what we have had. Like, just those three would be so much more useful than having a piece of a left back here with Tomiyasu, a little piece of one with Zinchenko. Like, genuinely, none of them fill me with like 100% confidence, and I'm not surprised that he's like that position has become an important position. Um, you know, let's see. Sam says first priority is getting rid of Zinni, then sell Nketiah and Reese. We need to get rid of anyone who is not up to standards at Arsenal. Sammy says midfield got to be prioritized first. It's just even like the midfield thing with like all of the options basically being taken off at the table last week. Like James McNicholas was like, Zubimendi's probably not going to come. He doesn't want to leave Spain. Bruno Guimaraes too expensive. João Neves, they don't want to sell Benfica. It was like every single option was like off the table. Like I think Ornstein said, we're not getting Amadou Onana, which is great. But it's like, okay, well, if all these options are off the table, then who are you going to go get? Because you cannot be going into next season with, Partey and Jorginho as like main options in midfield. Because as much as people try to pretend like that's good enough, it's not. Like the moment Partey gets injured, you guys will be crying again. Like, so it's just, you have to bring in a midfielder. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't. I don't see why you wouldn't. But it just they could be just keeping everything hush hush Arsenal, they'll try to do the whole like we're just, so we're just so stealth, but I do get the feeling that it's gonna be a more low key window than maybe what a lot of people are expecting. Because it's a lot of Arsenal have spoken to this like they've spoken to the player, but nothing has really went further than that. Arsenal are looking at their options. They want the perfect signing. They're not really desperate to bring in this. And it's just like, okay, let's temper our expectations. Dean Jones was saying that something about Arsenal were happy to let the Arsenal were like there have been some whispers on the weekend that Arsenal were happy to let the Cesco rumors keep flying as they were doing other work behind the scenes. Okay. All right. Hopefully. So yeah, it's not that I don't think Arsenal are doing anything. I just don't think that they want to have a major window, if that makes sense. So let's look through some of the the articles that have come out over the last couple of hours, because obviously once the Cesco news came out, then everybody felt the need to write something. So, like I was saying, from the Athletic, Amadou Onana does have admirers within Arsenal, but a move for the player is not in the works this summer. Arsenal are growing in confidence that goalkeeper Carl Hein will sign a new contract. The 22-year-old will likely head out on loan if he signs a new contract with several championship clubs monitoring the situation. Cesco's decision to remain in Germany doesn't necessarily mean that Arsenal will switch their attention to another center forward. They're also keen to strengthen wide positions of their attack, may now prioritize a winger instead of a traditional striker, which is like just, yeah, whatever. Like, just make sure that they're actually like a top player. Like, don't just get some weirdo. Like, like some of the names that we've been linked to, I'm just like, that player is not going to do anything for us. Like, they're just not. Arsenal could now reignite their interest in signing Xerxes from Bologna, but I do get the feeling that he's going to Milan, and that's probably the best place for him. Douglas Luiz getting closer to Juventus, which mean that he's not coming to Arsenal. So that's Douglas Luiz, Bruno Guimaraes, João Neves, and Zubamendi all off the table for Arsenal for the midfield position. Arsenal retain interest in Bilbao's Nico Williams. Do you really think Arsenal are going to give him those 300,000 pounds per week that he's looking for somebody who's still raw and needs time to develop? Like, don't see that happening either. And this is coming from Mo Arsenal, who's in the know, was saying that from what he understands, we are much more likely to sign a winger this summer and revisit this center forward conundrum next summer. So kicking this striker situation down the can, which again, I was saying that buying Havertz was always going to have some sort of knock-on effect on what we want to do. Unfortunately, that knock-on effect has kind of been like he's playing well, it's great, but Arsenal probably won't get a striker anytime soon, because they already have him. So maybe next summer, if they move Jesus on, which they should be looking to move him on within the next 1 to 2 seasons, then bring in somebody that can, like another goal scorer. Those are the knock-on effects. Like, you can't just sit him, like, you're not going to just sit him on the bench. That's not how Arsenal operates. So that's why when he started playing well at striker, I was like, okay, like, that's great. We probably won't like prioritize a striker. Not one that's like already, developed. Interest from Arsenal in Newcastle's Alexander Isak and Sporting's Victor Gyökeres, two Sweden strikers, have dwindled due to the massive fees it would take to sign them, and a move for Brentford's Ivan Toney also looks unlikely at this stage. And so, yeah, like, that's basically all that's out there so far. So again, like, so what's going on? Like, why do you think that the window won't be that exciting? And I was saying, like, the reason why I don't feel like there will be a marquee signing and there won't be, like, it will just be kind of like maybe backup winger, maybe. I think that will be the last thing that's addressed, if I'm honest. Like, it'll be like a left back and a midfielder and a goalkeeper and maybe a winger. If sales, the whole sales thing, got to get the sales in. It's just because I do think Arsenal are kind of okay with what they have. So yeah, and the market is not really the best. Like, there's not these, like, they're out there, but Arsenal don't go for those types of players. Like, there are players out there that you can look at that would give you a little bit more of that X factor, but Arsenal don't typically go for those types of players. They're more like, they want to get, I don't want to call them safe options, but Arsenal like safe options, like ones that they know are going to work out in the system, guys that are desperate to come to Arsenal. Like, they don't really want to go for like players that I don't think they're 100% sure on, or, maybe have the star factor, but maybe won't work as hard, or maybe don't have the best attitudes. Like, they don't really go for players like that. And so I feel like if they don't have like no Pedro Neto means that they'll really struggle to figure out what they're going to do wide, because he was like the number one option forever. So not being able to get him is, they're probably looking around and they're like, well, nobody else is really like him, so we won't go for anyone really because they're not going to go for a layout because layout doesn't work hard, off the ball. So yeah, I can see us having a more quiet window. Not meaning that we won't get anybody, but there won't be any there's not going to be another Declan Rice type signing. Caesar says Leao makes us go for a defensive left back, which we already have, but to have a more direct, proactive midfielder in the left, Williams solves the left wing, right wing situation, but needs a box dominant striker and a dynamic left back. Harm Vanderwilt says, if we can't find the right striker, we can go bigger on a winger and a left eight. Let's get Kudus and Frankie in. I mean, that makes sense, but do you really see Arsenal putting out the money that it would take to get Kudus at this stage? West Ham are really difficult to deal with. We already knew they wanted to sell Declan Rice and they made it hell on earth. Just think about what it would be like to try to poach a player that they probably don't want to sell right now. Especially with Paquetá staring down a long-term betting, suspension or whatever ban. The last thing they need is for Kudus to go. So it would probably cost I would not be surprised if they wanted 80 million for Kudus. And I think they'd be well within their right to ask for that for the player that we saw last season and what other players of his similar quality will go for. I would not be surprised if they, and do you really see Arsenal spending 80 million on a player that last summer they could have gotten for 40? I just don't see it. I cannot see Kudus and Frankie de Jong. Again, another player. I'd be very surprised if Arsenal went for Frankie de Jong. We've never really been linked to him, and I know he's injured right now. I don't know if it's a long-term one, but he's out for the Euros, and he's a player that's not Premier League proven, and he's not young either. He's 27, and he's not from the Premier League. So I don't really see Arsenal doing those two either. That would be a great window. I just can't see it. Johnny says, USA, Brazil. Oh my God, I love those bastards that trash our beloved sport by calling it some made up monstrosity soccer so much. I need a Martinelli hat trick. Yeah, Americans never made up the word soccer. They didn't. So I don't know where that came from, but I feel like everybody should know that by now that Americans didn't make up the word soccer. It was actually people from the UK made it up. And then we just kept it, and somehow we've been blamed for the word when we didn't make it up. Mosquito says, hi, Jess. Unfortunately, Cesco has decided to stay at Leipzig. I would focus on Osimhen, even if I have some doubts because he has a unmanageable character. Do you see Arteta going after somebody like that? Somebody that's not manageable? Winning Way says the problem is the board keep putting shit players on high wages and no team is willing to pay out those contracts plus the fee. So they end up leaving on a free. To be honest, I think one of the bigger mistakes was giving Eddie 100,000 pounds per week. It never made sense. It also never made sense to put Reece on 90,000 pounds per week because all the teams that would be interested in those two players, it's almost like we view them a lot higher than what they actually are. Putting them on those high wages, they must have thought really good teams would come in for them, teams that could actually afford to have those types of players on those types of wages. Genuinely, at a Crystal Palace or something like that, you'd be lucky to be on 50,000 pounds per week. They don't have a lot of players that they can have on over 100,000 pounds per week or anything near it. So it's very strange decisions that Arsenal come up to. It's they get done by the same agents over and over again. And genuinely, both of those players should not be at Arsenal anymore. So the Reece Nelson and Kedia situation, the reason why it's taking us so long to sell them is because the wages. Nobody wants, neither one of those players are good enough to be on those level of wages. So it never made sense to put Eddie on that level of wages. It was giving, we're just going to give Arteta what he wants. And I get that that's kind of been the mantra and it's worked out in some ways, but there has to be a grown up in the room saying, Tony says, I think the priority is to get rid of the players that are not performing. I mean, but you have to bring players into the priority has to be doing both, genuinely getting rid of players that should have been gone years ago it's past due. Like, you know how you have like things on your calendar, and like if you have like a one of those like task work thingies, and like you see like next to the things like this is a priority, this is past due, this is like super past due. Like Eddie and Reese going is seriously past due. So it's like it being a priority is kind of like a given. You know, they should have been gone already. So like, but the priority should be, no matter what, bringing in players that could give us the X factor. If they already know that that's what we need, if they don't get it, it feels like, I don't know. It just wouldn't be. Oh, hold on. Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry. I have no idea what happened. I have no idea what happened. I touched something and it just all went away. I'm sorry. I'm back. Um, but yeah, the priority needs to be Arsenal bringing in any sort of player that can get us over the line in those big games. Like, you know, I've been saying this, like, I feel like we need players that can help like Saka and Odegaard and these guys like get some of these games over the line, like somebody that can score goals in difficult situations. And we don't necessarily have that all the time. And so not having that or not going after that this summer, after it's been like said in the media that Arsenal know we don't have it, I do think would be a missed opportunity. So yeah. Winning Way says I would be looking at Guirassy or Gyökeres. I just don't see us going for an old striker. And for Arsenal, anything over the age of 22, 23 is old. Terry says, Mudryk, yeah, we got outbid. It happens. Let Chelsea overpay and go down the tubes. He was nice to have, never a must. Winning Ways is talking to somebody else. Lionide says, we need to revive the left-hand side. I agree with that. I don't, as much as people are talking about we need backups for the right, we need starters for the left. Like how many summers are we going to kick the left-sided center mid off? Like we've been kicking that down the road for years now. We've been talking even when Xhaka, like, because again, Xhaka had one really good season for us. Like I know, like, I know some people are not gonna like this, but he had one really, really good season for us, but it was not like even before that, we were screaming for a new midfielder because Xhaka had clear limitations that for only one season, it wasn't very obvious, right? And so I do think that we've been kicking the midfield can down the road, the midfield revamp, getting that last player in. It just feels like we're so close. Like we're one top attacker, left midfielder, and left back away from like really just like the 11 being on the same level as City or like close to it. But, just buying backups and going with what we have feels a little bit like a cop out, and I just don't feel like yeah, we need backups, but, like, fix the starting 11. Like, the starting 11 isn't good enough, not to, like, really compete in on every level that we wanna be at. Um, so we'll see what Arsenal does, but it's a little like, yeah, sell to buy, don't wanna do a big summer, doing backups because 'cause we're, like, happy, like, with what we have. So yeah, Winning Way says Brahim Diaz or Desired Due. I would take either one of them. I would take either one of them. Art says we will end up with Solanke and Onana. Onana was like Ornstein said we're not going for him. And that made me happy because it's like I don't ever want to hear that name connected to Arsenal ever again. Like I get it that we're desperate like as a fan base to get somebody in, but like so we'll try to make him good. Like the amount of people that I saw writing like dissertations about how he's actually a really good player, you just can't see it because you're not really paying attention was like, come on, like we watch him play. He's not all that. Prince says we can't afford to go into next season with our current six forwards and expect to win the league. And I agree with that. I think there needs to be a shakeup up front. Like there needs the amount of seasons that have gone by without us truly addressing bringing in like top quality talent up front is like, okay, how many years are we going to do this? Like you're not going to get the striker because you bought Havertz. Okay, but the winger then needs to be upgraded. Something needs to be upgraded up front. And do I think that they're going to do it? Not really, but we'll see. Nuances of Fate says we still do weird things. The El Neni contract cost us Patino. Eddie will be a hard sell at 100,000 pounds. We will lose Walter because Arteta chose to play Cedric. A lot of our decisions are still like baffling. Definitely the wages for Eddie makes no sense. Like Arteta rated him a lot higher than what he ever was. Like maybe Arteta thought he could do like a save him, like make him, everybody thinks Eddie's not very good, so I'm gonna prove them wrong. Well, you just proved everybody right, bro. Like we all knew that Eddie wasn't good enough, and now you're desperate to sell him, and you can't because nobody like he's not 100,000 pound per week player. Like he's just not. Like he's a very average kind of striker, and yes, he'll score goals for other teams, but he's no like to me, he's like a Shea Adams type, like, not he's not he doesn't the main thing that keeps Eddie back and the reason why Chelsea got rid of him by the way was because he didn't have the physical capabilities like physically he doesn't offer anything outstanding, not outstanding speed, not outstanding physical domination, none of those types of things. It's giving very much like he's just physically he's just a very like average striker. Can he get into good goal scoring opportunities? Does he have a good nose for goal? Yes, but like at the top level, like people want like those extreme physical qualities in a striker. Like the best strikers that we know of are really clinical, like dominate the box area, physically imposing, or lightning quick, or all of those things. Um, and to be honest, like he doesn't have any of those real qualities. So he has to be like a phenomenal finisher and great goal scorer. And he doesn't have that. So he can't make up for those physical qualities. So like for him to be on those high wages, like even if Crystal Palace wanted him, right? Because everybody's saying Crystal Palace wants him. He's not starting over Mateta. He's going to take Edouard's position. He's not even going to start at Crystal Palace. Like Mateta has those extreme physical qualities that you want in a striker. He's tall and strong, and he's a bastard. So to get like it's just a very strange decision, but I think Arteta wanted to prove to people that Eddie was a lot better than because early days, I think Arteta was doing a lot of that. Like, I'm going to prove to you that this player is good. My ideas are great. And it hasn't really worked out. Eddie is a very average striker. Like at one point, Eddie was fighting for time against Jesus and getting minutes over Jesus. Like, it was strange. He was getting minutes over Trossard. Like, there's no world where Eddie should be starting over Jesus or Trossard. Yeah. Artie says even Xhaka had one really good season, but we still can't find his replacement. Lionite said all of Odegaard's long ball assists comes from left mid 8. Yeah, they do, but again, like we're not going to go through this again. Like there's no reason to move him fully to left mid. Like there's just none. Like just allow him to have more freedom and he'll pop up where he wants to pop up. There's no reason to move him from the position where he's at. I think again, it's kind of similar to people wanting to shoehorn Timber into left back. They want to shoehorn somebody into another position because they don't like what they have there instead of being like, okay, the club needs to buy a left back. It's like, well, let's just put Timber there instead of being like, okay, let's just address left center mid. They're like, let's just put Odegaard there. It doesn't really solve our problem because then you still open up problems on the other side. No, Emile Smith Rowe is not good enough to play there. So I know that for years people wanted Emile Smith Rowe to play right center mid so that he can play next to Saka so that we could fulfill our dream of a Haaland right side. It's not going to happen. So, just ask the club to do what they're supposed to be doing, which is buy a left back and buy a left center mid, and we won't have to try to shoehorn our players into other positions. This doesn't need to happen. It doesn't make sense. Philip says everyone who moans about Nketiah's wages seems to forget he's leaving on a free. When we get 20 million for him, Edu will look like a genius. Oh my gosh, because we're not. I feel like the thing is what is that guy's name that's on Chelsea that they're selling? He went to Fulham for like a hot second on loan, I think. He'll come to me, but he's one of their academy products, and I think they're like in negotiations with Everton for him for like 30 million. And I'm just like, and then I saw Arsenal fans saying we should get way more for Eddie. I was like, know your club. Like if we were to get 30 million, I'd be very, very, very surprised for Eddie. I just will get like we'll hold on for 30 and somehow end up with 20 or something like that. Like we're not going to get 30 million for Eddie Nketiah no matter like what we're trying to do. Like it's just not going to happen. So yeah. Shamaraya says, essentially, I don't think Arsenal are in a rush this summer to make signings. I don't either. Like, I don't think they're I don't think they're in a rush, and I don't think they're desperate to make any signings. Like, I think Arsenal view where we are as a club as a very good position, and that like we're so close. And if one or two things had just went our way, we would have won the league. So like we don't need to really do that much. I view it a lot more differently. I don't actually think I think we're close, but like a summer without really like nailing down certain things, we could not go backwards, but we need to just finish this up. Like it can't forever be a project where we're always kind of missing something. Like just finish it. But maybe they think it's finished. Winning Way says, keep Jorginho and Partey is a whole waste of time. Edu should be pushing to sign Kimmich, who is better than Jorginho in that role, younger and a winner, and get Fofana for a box-to-box role. I don't have an issue with Jorginho staying. And I do think that like we just need one DM type player. Like bringing in both Fofana and Kimmich feels like overdoing it a little bit because both of them kind of play very similar positions. So just replace one of Thomas Partey or Jorginho with a top quality midfielder, and you've kind of solved your problem. But I do get the feeling that some people are like, you either have to get rid of Jorginho and Partey or just Jorginho. And it's like, why can't Jorginho be the one that stays? He's the one that's like, he's not hurting us or anything like that. Like, replace Partey. Like, he's the obvious one to replace. But that's just me. That's just me. Blaze says Arteta can only blame himself about Nketiah because it was his idea and Edu to extend his contract. Same with Nelson. It just never made sense. I don't think it ever made sense for the Eddie thing. I remember people were trying to make it make sense, and it just never did. It's like, eh, we watch him with our own two eyes. He's 25 years old. He's been at the club for a long time. He's like, without being like an ass, like, he is definitely like very average, so um he we've held on to him for a long time, like trying to make him maybe into something that he wasn't, or try to prove a point or whatever. But genuinely, like, going into this season with Eddie and Jesus as our striker options was not giving winning the league. And we may feel like we're very close, but when you are we really that close? Like, I guess that would be my thing. We were close to winning the league, but are we close to competing on all four fronts like Man City is? No, not really. So being close to them in one competition doesn't mean that we're actually closing the gap on them the way that we think we are, because we like City, they didn't have the best season this season in terms of winning multiple trophies. They only won one. But they like, I remember Arsenal fans were like, "Why do they always have games in hand?" And I'm like, always have games in hand because they're always in multiple competitions until damn near the end. They're in finals, they're in semifinals, of course they only really went out of the Champions League because, you know, Real Madrid parked the bus and went to penalties and they missed theirs, but they literally lost to the team that ended up winning it. Um, but Arsenal go out of all of the cup competitions very fast. We were kind of choking in the Champions League, and we still didn't win the league. And we were out of a lot of those competitions a lot earlier. So, as close as maybe the club thinks we are, which I get this feeling that they feel like we're really close, I don't get the feeling of closeness. I feel like we're still like 3 or 4 major signings away from really like going on all 4 fronts. But, I get that you can't get everything you want, and so we'll see what they do. Prince says, instead, it feels like Arsenal are just playing PR games around signing Bruno Guimaraes. Um, Art says, the fact that we didn't win the league should be even more reason to spend more. I don't get why we're going back to sell to buy FC. C. Wilder says, I think Eddie has 100% of the mentality that Arteta wants, just not the talent. I think we've graduated beyond keeping players around because of their attitude, because we're trying to switch over the culture of the club. Like, the first couple of years, I kind of understood it a lot more, because it was like, okay, we really need to get the culture going because it was really bad. But once we got beyond that, I do think that like it's time to move on the average guys. Like, I understood it before. It's like, I'd rather have this player that's less talented, that works hard and trains hard, than the more talented one that doesn't. But genuinely, like, we got beyond that. Like, after last season, like, not this past season, but the season prior, when we were in the title race, like, everything to me changed. To me, it did. Like, it's like, oh, we're really good. We're actually challenging for titles. To have Eddie in your team is just crazy, and like a major part of it. So I kind of understood it at the beginning. I don't really understand it now, and so now we're kind of like stuck with him in a way. And I think it's going to be much harder to sell him than like originally. Like, it feels like we should just be able to get the 30 million and walk away, but no sale is easy for Arsenal. So let's see. John P says, plenty of clubs will buy Eddie. I'm not worried about moving him on our ESR, but Reece, those wages might be tricky. Yeah, Reece Nelson is the one that, remember, we were talking about we were talking about I think it was me and Diluted, who, if any 3 of them stayed, who do I think it would be? I think we both agreed that it would be Reese Nelson because he's the hardest sell. Like, he won't have that many suitors. So, yeah, Eddie and ESR will go, but my issue with those 2 is that you could sell them quicker, but to get what Arsenal are gonna ask for, which, they're gonna start really, really high with, ESR, we want 50,000,000, Eddie and Nketiah, we want 50,000,000, Ramsdale, we want 50,000,000. You're not getting that. So it's gonna take a lot longer. Um, so yeah, Molly says, I think we're going for Ibrahim Diaz from Madrid. Ibrahim Diaz, yeah. I mean, that would be great if we went for him, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We probably won't see anything for a while. Like, Shamaria was saying, got the Euros, so nothing is going to happen quickly. So I understand that. Um, but yeah, Brahim Diaz would be a great signing, I think. And anybody who's like, oh, I don't rate him, I don't rate him. Genuinely, everybody beyond like Danny Ceballos in the Madrid team walks straight into our team. Like, there's not a lot of players on that team that don't walk straight into our team. So, and Brahim Diaz is right in that list. Like, I think he's really, really talented. But yeah, um, Tiger and Gunnar says we'll buy after the Euros. Caesar says Nketiah profile of what if I tear at Arsenal has shown us something in his mentality. Um, But yeah, like Nketiah, you're not in the Euros. Reece Nelson, you're not in Euros. Emil, you're not in the Euros. Like, we could actually sell those players like now if we wanted to. So maybe it will be a bit of like a month of sales, and then we'll go into that next phase of like maybe buying somebody. But we'll see. says, per Team News and Ticks, we are not expected to sign a striker now. No shit. Look, it's like that to me, it's just like so obvious we're not getting a striker. If it's not a young striker, like I never really got the feeling that Arsenal were like super desperate to buy a striker because it's like they found a way to make Havertz work, and now they have to kind of continue on with it. Buying a striker that's going to start over Havertz just undermines all of that, and the questions come back up of why did we buy him? So, yeah. Belchick says Diaz is a bit inconsistent, but he got the potential. Yeah, like honestly, Real Madrid leftovers work really well. And they're better than Man City leftovers. I'd take them in a second. Caesar says no striker is meh, but then we need to have a top striker and a left wing. I think they view Havertz as a top striker, and maybe they feel like they can rehab Martinelli, but Martinelli and Kai Havertz don't really work together. We haven't figured out a way for them to work together. Maybe that's the midfielder. Maybe the midfielder will unlock that, or the left wing will unlock that, but there's just no way for us to move forward. If we don't get the left wing, then Martinelli you need to figure out a way to get him going and get him like an environment that he's just not the type of winger that's going to be able to figure it out without all the pieces around him making sense. So then you need to make sure that the midfielder and the left back makes sense. So yeah, you still have to sign play. Even if you keep the left wing the way that it is and you keep Havertz, you still need to do more work other places. So yeah. Tiger and Gunnar says, we'll keep the transfer tight lips so the likes of Chelsea pinching our targets. Yeah, I don't know if I really buy this whole we're just keeping everything tight-lipped, to be honest, but we'll see. Artie says, I expect most EPL teams in Arsenal will financially struggle buying in June unless they sell players. Yeah, there's like something with like a certain date that people can't really buy. It was like, was it like June 20th or something like that? Like there's obviously like um those like limitations in PSR and stuff like that. So maybe there's a specific date where people can actually really start signing people, but yeah. Um let's see. Shout out to Handabozo who told me to monitor stuff about Xerxes yesterday. I don't think Xerxes is a real option for us. I think he's gonna go Madrid. Not Madrid, Milan. Charles Watt says, no panic at Arsenal over the Cesco decision. They are comfortable with what they have, but remain in the market for attacking additions. Joshua Xerxes still of interest despite Milan and other pushing for him as well. So, like I said, the main thing is they're comfortable with what they have. So they're gonna add things and like I just don't think we're good enough to be like so relaxed on like whether we get players or not. Um, so yeah. Classic says, did Benjamin Sesko stay at RB Leipzig? According to Fabrizio Romano, who have a chance to keep him, even if Arsenal and Chelsea, Man U. Yeah, he decided to stay. MM says the media are clinging on to something now. Exactly. Like they're just going to the next target. And then when he goes to Milan, then they'll be like, oh, well, now, no, like we're not. I just don't get the feeling that we're getting a actual striker. Sorry. Like, they're saying Arsenal are ready to step up. Joshua Xerxes transfer interest after Sesko snub. Like, is this really what Charles Watts said? Arsenal are closely monitoring an alternative to Benjamin Sesko following the breaking news from earlier today. Arsenal remain interested in Joshua Xerxes and could now step up that interest. The Gunners are looking to bolster their firepower this summer and were one of several Premier League clubs in the running for Sesko following his fine season, but the Slovenia international, who cares? I mean, he didn't really say much. He basically said they could, but I wouldn't be surprised if Xerxes was an AC Milan player like tomorrow, you know, because they've been working on it for a while and he's already been in Serie A for a minute. This Douglas Luiz going to Juventus and McKinney going the other direction, or some of these other players going the other direction, is very strange. So yeah, but I mean, how do you guys feel about Xerxes? Would you take him? Like, um, I don't even really, I don't feel like we're gonna get him, so I'm trying like not to get too like interested in it. Caesar says, you really said Brahim is Alexis 2.0. As far as I watched him, he has no defensive awareness, no pausa in his game, does half of what Alexis did for blanks, no strength aerials, no function. Okay, somebody else said that. So yeah, Art says, where does Brahim Diaz start? I think he's like, I mean, he's like an attacking mid winger type player. Like, I think he can play on either side. And as like a number 10. Lionite says Xerxes baloney material. Tiger and Gunnar says, Jess, are you going to watch the Euros? Yes, I am going to watch the Euros. And for those of you guys who weren't there at the beginning, we have the summer watch along schedule just here. We have tons of Euros games that we'll be watching together, as well as some of the Copa America games. So take a screenshot of this. I'll post it on Twitter as well, so that you guys can just like copy and paste, or not copy and paste, but like save it on your phone. And then the link for the TIFO She Knows Arsenal page is actually linked in the description and pinned to the chat. If you just click on that link, you'll see all the upcoming watch alongs that are coming up. I've already have 2 of them up there that you can RSVP for. All you have to do is use code Jessica to RSVP for them. So yes, not only will I be watching the Euros, but I'll be watching the Euros with you guys. So these are the games that I picked out. These are the ones that have the most, I guess, intrigue, in my opinion, like from an Arsenal perspective and just overall footballing perspective. So yeah, we will be there for sure. We will be there for sure. Winning Ways says Xerxes is better on the ball than Sesko and Havertz. Philip says those Cheetah Obi Martin rumors are music to my ears. Xerxes has that dodgy agent who's friends with Edu asking Milan for 15 million euro agent fee. So basically Kia, who, I cannot stand Kia. So bringing him back into bed would be terrible. As far as I'm concerned, Victor says Milan can have Xerxes. And Kedia's lawyer says anyone in this chat can spin a career from being a transfer journal. Saida says, Jess, what do you think about Julian Alvarez? I don't think we'll get him, but I rate him. I think I'd take him. Um, but yeah, we're not going to get him. So City are never going to sell anybody to us ever again. So yeah, if they do sell, they'll sell somewhere else, or they'll sell to Chelsea before they sell to us. But I think I'd take him. Um, come on. I know. Blaze says, if Arsenal won't buy a striker, that means our attackers, especially Martinelli, need to step up next season. We can't always rely on our defenders in big games. I would just say that, like, as young as Saka and Martinelli are, they've had 2 seasons of, like, good and bad, but I think they've shown enough that they're not gonna be Mane and Salah. That might be a very hard, like, a harsh, like, conclusion that I've come to, but, like, I remember when we first got Jesus and, we went through, like, the first half of the season prior, and we were like, "Well, maybe they can be our Saleh, our Mane and Salah." Where the striker doesn't score that many goals, but they score like 20 goals a season. Um, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I just feel like there's too many inconsistencies, and especially in big moments and big games, I'm not seeing the consistent like goals coming in. We have to rely too much on set pieces and our goal and our defenders to come up with moments. And so I would say, like, we've already seen for 2 seasons that we probably need another attacker, and to just, like, put all that on them again, I do think is doing them a disservice. Maybe they will grow into those players, they're still very young, but sometimes I feel like that clutch gene, you kind of have it or you don't. And I think sometimes, like, they flatter to deceive, just a little bit in those moments, like when we're going to Man City and we just need to nick a goal. You know, we're away at Anfield, you just need to get a goal. We're away at Villa, you just need to get a goal. Like, there's too many games this season where they just didn't even look like scoring, and they were just kept fluffing their lines. Like, yeah, to me, um, they're not they don't have that. They either don't have it or they don't have it yet. But I feel like Arsenal would be doing them a disservice if they don't just get them another player that can do those things. Like, Arsenal already know that they're missing X factor, so, like, there's no reason to pretend like they don't know that they need it, you know. So Philip says it's a safe bet that Martinelli Jesus stocks will go up again next season. Maybe, maybe more so Martinelli for me than Jesus. I think Jesus is, uh, I still feel like we're gonna be like, he's gonna be lacking. We need goals up front. I think we've graduated away from having players in the team that offer a lot of hard work but don't really give us end product. I think we've graduated away from that now. So I don't really see Jesus's stock going up that much. Martinelli, I think he'll be back in form next season. Like, I don't think there's a problem. Like, I think he'll be fine. Um, like, there's just, yeah, he just needs to get his confidence up. He'll still be great. Classic says, for me, Arsenal need one striker and one winger and a typical 6'8" for Rice Association and number 3. Then Arsenal will get champion in February. Um, let's see. MM says, yeah, Mane and Salah are one of a kind. Those were big game players. And so that's all I'm saying, is that, like, to go into next season and pretend like, I would say that we'll have the same conversations next season about those, not the amount of goals that we're scoring, but those clutch goals in those clutch moments, when we're away at the Etihad, when we're away at Anfield, where our attackers just are not involved in the game whatsoever. And they can't make something out of nothing in those tough games where, like, Arteta asked maybe the players to play a little bit more conservative defensively. When we get the opportunity to break, it cannot just be like, I'm the Etihad, like, going to the Etihad, I feel like that game, like, really just, like, broke my brain because, one, people were telling me that players up front played well, and I was like, "They didn't play well." Like, point blank, they did not play well. Yeah, but they weren't getting any service. I'm like, in games like that, you have to create your own moments. Like, and there were a couple of half chances that could have been better opportunities had certain players not been acting like they were afraid of their own shadow. And so I feel like I've seen enough from this group: Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, Nketiah, Reece Nelson. Like, I've seen like Trossard and like now Havertz. I've seen enough of this group to like know over the Latin they need like two additional players. They'll probably only get one. And if that player has the same genes as them, where it's like when they get in those big moments, they don't take them, they like shy away from them, or they can't lock their ankle to actually hit through the ball, or they don't make that pass that Trossard didn't make at the Etihad, then we'll never prosper. Like, we'll never prosper. No, we will never prosper from where we are if we don't like get real about like it's not normal to have so many of these moments in a season where we don't score any goals. Um, and we lack any threat. Like, that's like even Manchester United offer threat against good teams away from home. There's shit everywhere else, but like you have to have players that can create moments, and our players don't do that. So, you know, just like they need to look at that for sure. Winning says, for as good as Saka is towards the end of each season, he looks mentally fried and out of ideas. Keenan says, left center mid lack of vision and line breaking is killing us. We need someone who can receive, turn, and play the perfect ball to put Nelly or Havertz on goal. Rice and Bruno aren't that guy. Bruno Guimaraes is definitely that guy. Like, again, I don't know if you just maybe you have like certain glasses on against him, but like he quite literally is like one of the best chance creators in the Premier League, one of the best progressive passers in the league, creates some of the most chances for Newcastle, whether it's on transition or right on the edge of the box. Like, he like quite literally is that guy. Like, I don't know what you watch from him, but Bruno Guimaraes has all of it. He has all of it. Like, they're so lucky that they got him when they did, because he just solves so many problems. He's like a midfielder. He does kind of like everything. Classic says Arsenal need 300 million for buying Bruno Guimaraes, Cesco, or Osimhen and Naki Williams. Not 300 million. Not 300 million. We're never going to spend that amount. But yeah, don't think the striker is coming. I'm pretty certain on that. Not sure what we're doing on midfield, because all the options that we had, he's like running in his dream. All the midfielders that we were linked to are no longer available. So yeah, we'll just see what happens after the Euros. Like, I'm really happy that we have like actual football coming up soon, so that we can just like, I don't know, like move on from some of this, because there's not really anything happening. And it's just, I almost just want to like wake up on the first day of the season and just be like, what did we do? What did we not do? Because I think the last window kind of spoiled us a little bit. And so now it's like we think we're going to have another window where we're going to be spending this amount and getting big players. And I think it's going to be a smaller, quieter window for Arsenal, very heavily based on sales, which is unfortunate. But yeah, key interruption is Joshua Xerxes' agent, and I don't want that guy near the club again. So I mean, a 15 million euro agent fee is actually outrageous. So yeah, like I said to you guys, click the link that's in the description and also pinned to the chat. That's how you can sign up for the watch along. It's going to be tomorrow. Yeah, we have the one tomorrow at 4 p.m., which is late for you guys, but you guys stay up late, right? You guys aren't asleep by like 8 o'clock, right? You guys are going to be up at midnight to watch this game. I think it's actually going to be a good game for my Canadian, American, people watching. I know you guys will be available, so make sure you guys sign up. And then next one after that will be Friday for the first game of the Euros. So that should be interesting with Kai Havertz starting up front. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. But yeah, make sure you guys sign up. Another show tomorrow, maybe at the normal time. I just couldn't do it at the normal time today because I have to leave the house. I have to go work in just about an hour. So yeah. Um, Not the funnest stream. I mean, I always have fun with you guys, but it's just like I want to be able to talk about like things actually happening. I feel like nothing's really happening yet, but I know that we have to still do these streams on a daily because it just kind of gives us time to like chit chat and stuff like that. But it'll be so much fun when we're actually talking about things actually happening, even if it's not big stuff, you know. I just want us to fill the gaps that we have in the team with top quality. Is that too much to ask? You know, so like and subscribe on your way out. God damn, somebody chasing you in your dreams? Is somebody chasing you in your dreams? He is so funny. He's chasing me. Tell everybody what you did the other day. Say, I went swimming and I did a really good job. But yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out. We'll be back tomorrow. And if anything happens, of course, I'll be back. But yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.